Hello lads, so we are finishing up another War Thunder crafting event, Project Overpowered, and immediately there are questions and controversies and problems. Basically it's another bog standard event, this time with 4 new vehicles, which are all copy-pastes of existing vehicles, including copy-pastes of other event vehicles. The requirement to get parts has changed, heard plenty of complaints about that. It's now not about time spent in battle, it's about points earned, which I think is fantastic. Gone are the days of Arados and 5.3 down tiers just camping in space to run out the clock.
There we go, nice! Yes, get out of here, you worthless pile of human garbage!
Still stand by that, by the way. You literally cannot get all the rewards without paying. Oh, and only one of the 4 vehicles is premium this time, and it's the rank 1, which is just about useless, outside the memes everyone posts on YouTube and TikTok where nobody got to see the 300 failed attempts before they actually made it work. If you're unfamiliar with Gaijin's crafting events, besides just being needlessly controversial, they're a way to earn unique vehicles that are only available for a limited amount of time, in this case until October 17th I believe. During crafting events you do this by collecting crates of materials by playing the game. You craft parts. It takes a certain amount of time per part, and it's completely RNG which materials you get from each crate, which is fantastic. And with all of those parts, you assemble coupons for the vehicles, which alongside those materials themselves, you can also sell on the marketplace if you don't want them. Now, I wasn't sure whether or not to bother making this video. I don't generally do War Thunder's events, I don't typically find them worth the effort. I'm always too busy. And if there's a specific vehicle I do want, I have the fortunate privilege of being able to ask Gaijin for it, thanks to being part of their content partner program. But I am working on a bigger project that I have not been able to finish by the weekend. It'll be coming out this week. Something I've probably had more requests to bring back than anything else this channel's ever put out. So in the meantime, I thought I'd make this video, because there are some aspects of this event that just made no sense. Maybe we can fix them. Now overall, I think the event is okay. It's accessible to all comers above rank 3, without just feeling like a token reward for being around. That requirement of rank 3 is a very good thing. If you're new to the game, I'm sorry, but it's better that you just don't participate in events just yet, than you having to contend with hundreds of thousands of top level players coming into rank 1 and 2, seal clubbing for easy points to farm the event. That requirement for drops, 3,000 points per crate of resources and 15,000 per piece of tape though, seems ludicrously high given how many of these things you need and how little time you have to actually do the event, though that has been extended due to Gaijin servers suffering continuous DDoS attacks. 3,000 points per crate is not a difficult requirement, that's 2 to 3 good games, but you will need a ton of these crates and tape to get anywhere, so I think cutting it down either to 1,000 and 5,000 points, or tripling the number of materials you get from each crate, and reducing the amount of tape you need would be a lot better. Just for next time. Either that or the length of time the event goes on for needs to be a lot longer, I'd say double at least. The drop rate for materials has been relatively okay, though there do seem to be a couple of materials that just don't drop nearly as frequently as others, and because the marketplace gets saturated on day 1, I probably won't be able to sell those others and will just end up with lots of useless spares while not being able to get the 2 more of the rarer part that I need. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, having some materials be rarer to come across than others. Lots of open world games have that, for example. Personally, I never liked it much for crafting events in War Thunder. That always seemed very, I don't know, Borderlands-ish. World of Warcraft, other MMOs. I know it always reminded me of Monster Hunter, where I remember doing the same quest to kill the same monster over and over again because I needed that one rare drop it gave to craft the set of armor I wanted, and ending up with tons of spare scales and claws and such. But usually in those types of games, whatever spares you get to sell to merchants and vendors to make some kind of profit from them. Basically, it didn't feel like War Thunder. But that's just me. I'm old-fashioned and probably just outdated at this stage. And either way, I think my opinion on crafting events in general was just tainted by the first one, Battlefield Engineer, which was new and different and had a ton of problems. Though to be fair, most subsequent crafting events have also had the same issues, but Project Overpowered at least looks to be a lot better, a big step in the right direction. The requirement of points to receive materials crates, replacing the old battle time requirement of previous events, is an enormous step up. As I said, in previous events you'd see players in bomber aircraft at RRB flying up to 10 kilometers or more in altitude to sit there for possibly an entire match, just running up the clock to gain battle time, absolutely ruining games for anyone not doing the event. Basically, players were looking for ways to easily cheat the system in order to not have to actually do any work, which made for terrible gameplay, and with this change, that can't happen. There's no shortcuts here. The only way to do the event is to play the game, and the better you perform, the more points you'll earn and the more crates you'll receive, unlike the battle time requirement, which actually punished better players because the more skillful you are, the more quickly your games tend to end. And YouTubers have been uploading all these tips and tricks videos for grinding the event. There's only one tip to give: play the game. Okay, just quickly, here's my top tips for subsequent events. Play ground battles. Doing the events in air battles is just a lot less efficient, will take a lot longer, so if you play both modes, focus on ground battles. I recommend strong lineups at mid BRs where you tend to see the highest average point totals. German 5.3, 5.7 or 6.3 are great, Russian 5.0 or 7.0, or American 5.7 and 7.7 if you want to go that high. And spawn as many times as possible. You'll gain more points. Hell, even if you're getting spawn camped, it's still worth spawning in just to die, because getting killed earns you 100 points or so, and maybe you can take one of those enemies with you. Now, it does start costing you in repairs, which is why sticking to rank 3 and 4 is best. Repairs are nice and cheap there. Basically, I really hope Gaijins stick with the points requirement. That alone has made this event so much more enjoyable, makes gameplay during the event so much less painful, especially for anyone not participating. But it's not perfect. At point number 1, there is still a maximum number of crates and tape you can get per day, which there shouldn't be, in my opinion. It brings back the worst aspect of the task events, which is no matter how good you are, you still need to be able to log in every single day during the event to get the vehicles. You can't get it all done in a few days by being really good. And no matter how good you are, because of the cap on how many crates you can earn, if you miss a few days, you're shit out of luck. Now that isn't good. The game should let you complete the grind at your own pace. And it also means, as far as I'm aware, it is not possible to grind all 4 event reward vehicles. You have to pick. In fact, with the limit on pieces of tape you can even get through grinding, you can only craft the Po2M and I think one other high rank reward, which I think Gaijin can go get fucked for. Basically, if you want more than one of the high rank rewards, you have to pay. There's no other way of doing it. So what's the point of it being an event if you can't grind it, if you have to pay? Basically, Gaijin's just introduced 2 extra premiums, but they aren't premiums. You don't get the double rewards when using them. They don't help you grind. Fucking scumbags. Number 2 is a little more of a problem for everyone, and that is encouraging team killing. Now, aside from just earning crates of materials to build with, you can also speed up the building process itself with Technician Toolkits, which you earn each time you place first on your team. You need 25 toolkits to make a Junior Technician team, which will triple the building speed of the Po2. You can also get 12 times the build speed with a Senior Technician team for 50 toolkits, but I wouldn't bother, since the crafting time with a junior team is only 4 hours anyway, just crafted overnight. That's nothing on the timescale of how long you actually have to be grinding for. And the problem with this is that it can encourage some pretty scummy behaviour to cheese your way to the top of a team, and the worst example of this is second place players team killing first place in order to take their spot, or first place team killing second to make sure they keep it. Having purely self-oriented goals in a team game is always a bad idea. Having teammates who are competing with each other for entirely selfish gains rather than working together for mutual benefit should not be encouraged. In fact, the opposite. Teamwork should be encouraged and rewarded above all else. This is why the removal of kill assists for damaging cannon barrels and tracks and The removal of points gain for being in a dogfight baiting for a teammate pissed me off so much. Luckily, the fix to this Gaijin is incredibly simple, and that is to make team killing take away points. I think twice or 3 times what you would get for killing an enemy player subtracted from your score would completely prevent the act of team killing to stay at the top. Honestly, it kind of irritates me that Gaijin didn't account for this, and I have seen it happen multiple times, because, like, people are scumbags on the internet, you know? More at 11. Like, how can they not have anticipated that? Anyway, we've talked about the event. What about the vehicles themselves? Well, the first two I want to go over are the German World War I battleship Ostfriesland and the French supersonic jet trainer, the Jaguar A. These are both effectively exact copy-pastes of existing tech tree vehicles, with the Ostfriesland being the second ship of the Helgoland class, serving in the famous Battle of Jutland in World War I. So if you're interested in naval gameplay, specifically battleships, or are just a naval history buff, this might very well be worth you picking up. The Jaguar E is the twin-seat version of the Jaguar A, features the exact same engines and avionics systems, including the Atlas targeting pod, the underwing flare pods, all the same weapons, and appears to have the exact same flight model. If you're interested in the Jaguar, but you've still got a ways to grind in your French aviation tree, this is a fantastic ground attacker for you, and a not insubstantial support fighter, given its extremely high instantaneous turn and R550 magic infrared air-to-air missiles. Now with these vehicles, I actually don't mind that they're copy-paste. Like I said, they're great for anyone who wants their counterparts in the tree but is still quite away from unlocking them. And they don't take away from the tech tree, which I think is really important, unlike the F11F Tiger and now F4D Skyray. Those take away from the tech trees. They can now never be represented in the US tree, and if you didn't do the event and you're not wanting to pay on the marketplace, you'll never have them. These vehicles are curiosities, great for lower tier players like I said, but they're not super important, which means the event isn't super important. It's not mandatory, it can just sort of happen in the background, which in my opinion is exactly how it should be. They're also a lot easier for Gaijin to model than a fully new vehicle, which is just a nice bonus. However, like I said earlier, this event asks a lot of players in a short amount of time, and I don't think that fits with these kinds of copy-paste rewards. They're not worth the effort it takes to get them, especially if you've already got their tech tree counterparts. They really mean nothing to you. Next we come to the Po2M, which the event is based around, and personally I don't much like this one for a couple of reasons. The Po2 itself has always been this kind of king meme vehicle of the game, given how useless it is. It's fun just seeing one turn up in a custom battle, but adding another one for a random event which then becomes buyable on the marketplace kind of just waters it down, makes it less unique, less special. And the actual Po2 should be coming back for Halloween next month anyway. Again, I think it's a bit too difficult to get for what it is. This is a lot of effort for a meme vehicle, though I feel like most players won't keep the Po2M anyway. They'll be wanting to trade it for the higher rank rewards. The main problem with this vehicle, however, is more about its dev block and what Gaijin suggests players do with it. Troll squadding, or fail squadding, is intentionally taking low tier vehicles into high tier matches, either in an attempt to straight up ruin the game for other players, or for the memes of killing top tier jets with a biplane. Some players put the M22 Locust or the Puma, the low tier wheelie boy that is, into regular high tier lineups. Some people have primarily rank 1 or 2 lineups with a single top rank vehicle in them to up tier the whole thing. This was a massive problem when helicopters were new. And in air battles, players will queue up in squads of 3 or 4 where one of them's in an F4 Phantom and the other 3 are playing Spitfires and BF-109s. Usually this results in basically an automatic loss for the team with the troll squad or fail squad in it, since they are effectively that many players down, and it really isn't fun to play against either. It offers nothing while ruining, either a little or completely, the experience of basically everyone else in the match except those few trolls. And a lot of players have been asking for years for Gaijin to fix this problem. Now, custom battles exist where players can mess around with biplanes versus top tier jets, or try to muck around killing Leopard 2s with the M3 half-track or the rockets on the Swordfish. And if you enjoy that level of ridiculousness, then absolutely, go have fun doing it. In customs. And perhaps we should do that more often as community events. Gonna be coming back soon, join the Discord. Arcade mode is also a lot more about crazy fun, but in realistic mode, things are meant to be a little more immersive and a wee bit more serious. Gaijin, however, in the Po2M's devblog, basically suggested that everyone with this aircraft should take it into top tier games and try to bomb modern MBTs with 50kg bombs, or shoot down jets and helicopters with its rear turret. The devblog even calls the Po2 the best trolling plane ever, despite the fact that the whole idea of trolling is to ruin other people's day. Now, the fact that Gaijin is suggesting it in the devblog isn't really going to increase the amount of people doing it. I just don't think trolling is something Gaijin should actively promote in their game. It's basically a slap in the face to everyone who's raised this problem. The Po2M is quite literally slower than the new drones, and with the distance of the air spawn in top tier games these days, having the Russian team all jump into biplanes to try and farm God mode achievements or get their 15 minutes of fame on YouTube, TikTok, or Reddit by bombing some oblivious Leopard 2 player is going to be a massive drag on gameplay for everyone. It's not fun to fight either, it's boring. Now, some people are going to answer this with, it's just a video game, get over it, and I should be able to play however I want. I've already talked about how much I hate that crowd. But you can. You can play the Po2 and other biplanes against modern tanks and jets in custom lobbies, where you aren't ruining other people's fun. You know, that's what they're there for. If the way you want to play the game is effectively griefing, then no, you shouldn't get to do that, you can fuck off. Now, I've suggested a way to fix this in the past that Gaijin have ignored, and recently I posted it again in the Content Partner Discord in our channel for posting feedback, where it was deleted, because the Gaijin staff on that Discord basically take or delete feedback based on their own personal tastes. Yeah, this company's really broken. The idea is that you lock lineups and squadrons from only containing vehicles a maximum of 1 rank apart in air battles and 2 ranks apart in tanks. This means that a squadron can line up for AirRB with both rank 5 and 6 jets, accounting for the overlap in battle ratings and the transitional period between them. But if there's a rank 6 player, they can't bring props with them. They just won't be able to ready up. It'd be like trying to hit the to battle button for ground battles with only aircraft in your lineup. It doesn't let you. For ground battles, 2 ranks rather than 1 apart ensures that everyone can have some AA. Sometimes they skip a rank. And in your rank 7 lineups, you'll still be able to bring any rank 5s you happen to want, but no rank 4s. The last issue, however, and the reason I wanted to make this whole video in the first place, is the ccv-l, the rank 6 American light tank reward. No, not this one. Or that one. This thing is straight up OP right now. Now, what the ccv-l is, basically, is the early prototype of the XM8, another crafting event reward from April of last year. Now, if you're thinking, but Koala, isn't the XM8 already a prototype? You'd be right. And this is where the stupid begins. To start out with, let's talk about the US Army's Armoured Gun System program, AGS. This was a late 1980s program to find a suitable replacement for the M551 Sheridan. The Close Combat Vehicle Light, ccv-l, was one of the proposals submitted by the FMC Corporation, and the Expeditionary Tank from Teledyne Continental Motors was another. This is called the TCM AGS in-game for some reason, by the way, even though neither of those acronyms are anything to do with the name of the tank. This one is for the manufacturer, which no other vehicle in-game has in its name. We don't have the McDonnell Douglas F4E, we have the F4E. And this is the program the vehicle was submitted for, which by that logic, we shouldn't have an F-14A early in-game, we'd have the Grumman VFX. And more importantly, we wouldn't have a ccv-l, we'd have the FMC AGS. Early, because the XM8 would also be the FMC AGS. You get what I mean. Anyway, the ccv-l, which had originally been built in 1985, that's the model we have with the older gun, was declared the winner of the contract in 1992, and 6 pilot vehicles were ordered for the US Army to test from 1994 to 96 under the designation XM8. So, since the XM8 is effectively the same vehicle, just from roughly a decade later than the ccv-l, you'd assume it would have some later ammunition and sit at a higher battle rating, right? The XM8, after all, was trialled with M833 and M900, same rounds used by the Abrams IP. Nope. The The XM8 is using 2 rounds it never fired, could never have fired since the M735 round was 2 rounds out of date before the AGS program even began. M774 replaced it in 1980 and M833 in 1983. And its other Sable shell, C76, was an export only round, meaning the Striker shouldn't have it either, nor should the Expeditionary Tank. Sorry. Ags. The ccv-l, on the other hand, has M833, a BR 10.0. Gaijin, what are you doing? I'm genuinely puzzled by how ridiculous this is. To put this into perspective, imagine if the Leopard 2A4 were using newer and better ammunition than the Leopard 2A5, or that the F4E had worse missiles than the F4C. It makes no sense. Historical accuracy aside, since that's often not a major consideration for ammunition, what matters is that the vehicle could use it, unless it's a premium, in which case it can receive rounds it was physically incapable of even loading. But the situation with the ccv-l and the XM8 it's just nonsensical. The AGS program has now given us 3 event vehicles in the last year and a half, while the US tech tree doesn't have a conventional light tank at top tier, only the HSTV-L and Striker MGS. And I think that's both poor planning and a little boring. Reminds me of when every US event reward was another Markova, and now it seems like every German event reward is some prototype Leopard 2. What made the XM8 unique back in April last year was that it was a conventional light tank, something the US trade didn't have yet, unlike the Germans with the TAMS, the Russians with the Sprut SD, and the British with the VFM5. Well, the US trade still doesn't have one, but having a 3rd event reward in a row be not just the same tank type, but from the same program, kind of defeats the purpose of having event vehicles in the first place. You know, there's nothing creative about that, nothing unique, it's just the same thing we've already had twice before. It's just another option the tech tray can't have. So while the AGS and ccv-l I think are fair game, the XM8 in my opinion belonged in the tech tray. It was not only delivered to the army for testing, but it passed those tests. Orders were even placed for production series vehicles, before a month later when Congress cut the funding, leaving the US Army without a light tank until 2022. The Griffin II from General Dynamics was selected just a few months ago as the winner of the Mobile Protected Firepower MPF program, basically AGS-2 Electric Boogaloo, with just as many hurdles. Man, Congress really doesn't seem to like light tanks for some reason. The Griffin II and Griffin TD for Tech Demonstrator, which had a 120mm gun, would make great additions to the US tech tree at, I reckon, 10.7 and 11.0, but the XM8, or M8, which it was actually classified as when it was accepted for service in 1996, really should have been a tech tree vehicle, keeping in mind the M247, not XM247, which also never made it to mass production, and the HSTV-L, which that was only made as a proof of concept, it wasn't even designed to enter service. Until this event, I kind of hoped that Gaijin would do it, that they'd pull a CV90-105 with the XM8, rename it ccv-l, change the visual model, remove the add-on armor kit, and add the CITV. Well, they can't do that now. The only other option from the same program again was Cadillac's Stingray Tank, which was privately built and only ever exported to Thailand. Short of Gaijin making it the next event vehicle just to complete the whole goddamn set, and add a 4th copy of the same tank, I think the Stingray, while it could fit in the tech tree, obviously Germany's top tier light tank line ends in the Argentine TAM-2C, which sets the precedent, I think the Stingray fits best as a squadron vehicle, not in the tech tree. It was not used by the US. So, since Gaijin have officially royally screwed up the chances of America getting a tech tree light tank at the top rank now, unless they do add the Griffin, what can they do at least to fix this problem? Well, firstly, the XM8 should receive the actual rounds it fired in reality, the M833 and M900, and with those rounds, it can go up to a BR of 10.3. That puts it above the ccv-l with later ammunition. That does make the ccv-l a little less unique, not that it's already unique either way, it's just the XM8 without the add-on armor nobody uses anyway. But if Gaijin wanted to, they could always swap M833 on the ccv-l for M774 to put it at a lower BR. I think 9.3 would be fine, if not 9.7. In the meantime, the Expeditionary Tank, or the TCM AGS, which got a massive mobility boost to this update, has received M774 and gone up to 10.0, and while we're at it, Gaijin, might as well remove C76 from the Striker MGS as well. Now, I want to be clear, this whole situation where the ccv-l is chronologically the earlier prototype than the XM8 but has later ammunition, does it matter? No, of course not. It's OCD, and if you didn't know that the ccv-l is the earlier form of the XM8, you probably wouldn't care anyway. It's just another light tank. But is it at all logical? Does it make sense? Also no. So this fix seems pretty good to me. When I brought this up on the Content Partner Discord, someone was adamant that buffing the XM8 with these rounds would somehow reduce its market value and that would be unfair to players who bought it specifically for the reason and only for the reason that it sat in the 9.3 lineup, so raising its BR would now ruin it. No. For one, battle ratings change all the time, so if players are buying vehicles purely for the BR they sit at right now, and any change to that makes it completely useless to them, that's just not a smart purchase. And two, why would that be a consideration here? By that logic, we should have left the SU-25K at 9.3, because players might have bought it in the hours after the Drone Age update released, specifically and only because it sat in the 9.3 Russian lineup, and raising it to 9.7 ruined it for them. How unfair. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, and as for people still hoping to sell XM8 coupons on the marketplace for $125, well, raising it to 10.3 with new ammunition, even if it did somehow reduce the market value of the vehicle, doesn't change their asking price, or the fact that nobody's buying it now anyway. Nor will they. The ccv-l is better and cheaper, so XM8 coupon owners, you should really be into this. More importantly though, we need better event vehicles next time. Ones that are different from other past events, even if they're copy-pasted tech tree vehicles to save Gaijin some time. We don't want another event Jaguar variant and Helgoland class battleship next time. If anything, what would be better is bringing back old event rewards for newer players who didn't get the chance last time to have another crack at them. Say, if one vehicle each event, and Season Pass as well, was a revisited one from past years, there's about 40 that Gaijin have to choose from, which covers 5 years, and then you just run the cycle again. That's much better, in my opinion, than making these events predictable and samey. Anyway, I said this was going to be a short video, and 25 minutes later, here we are, so I think that's going to be about all I wanted to say on this. Obviously, this one's come out much later than I'd hoped for, the event's now almost over, but hopefully these are some things Gaijin can keep in mind for next time. I hope you've enjoyed this video, let us know what you thought in the comment section below, make sure to like and subscribe, and join our members if you want to support the channel. Thank you guys all for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you on the battlefield. But around the end of 2021, various Russian tanks, predominantly the T-72B and B3, started to be spotted with these big rooftop cages sitting above the turret, and initial reports supposed that these were a measure to defeat top attack ATGMs. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept of a top attack missile, you've almost certainly heard of them, with Ukraine fielding a bunch of them against the invading Russian army, consisting particularly of the Swedish In-Law and the American Javelin.